It's Claris Talk AI. Cris Ippolite, welcome, sir.
Hey Matt, always good to see you. It's been
Always,
too long.
it has been. We got to do this more frequently because it's always fun.
Yeah, you're so busy though. You're Mr. all over the place doing all sorts of training and speaking and whatnot.
I know I've got a lot happening, which is
What's
great,
coming
right?
up? Yeah.
So let's see the FM Disk user group. It's online.
Yes. Based out
The
of
LA
Los
based one. I think
Angeles.
it's the largest one in the world in the country anyway, like that. They
It's
always have
huge.
a lot of people. Free. Join it on Meetup.com. I'm going to be interviewed on there September 12th about like semi-retirement. So,
Oh, wow.
um,
It's my favorite thing about you.
so kind of like it'll be some of the psychological stuff. Some of it's like the control of your day, talking about how amazing parts of it are, and also the parts that are challenging.
Hmm.
Um, and just kind of, thinking about what we want to do. Some people are going to retire at 40 if they can. Some people are going to retire at their 70 or whatever.
Oh my
Um,
God.
or
40.
come in and out of it, right? Because I've taken a couple of sabbaticals over the decades. Yeah, because FileMaker developers are rich, man. A million, just
Yeah, apparently. I mean, what am I doing here, dude? Jeez. Um,
uh, yeah. I mean, some FileMaker developers are commanding those $200 million salaries. Oh no, wait, that's
Yeah, what is happening?
I
I
know.
mean,
We got to
so
talk
that's
about that.
dominated the headlines, hasn't it?
Yeah, for a
But
while
yeah,
for
what
sure.
so what do you so tell me, are you doing any of the conferences? I know this is sort of conference season in
Yes,
Europe where you are based, so
I've got two. So classes I'm teaching. So I'm teaching a foundation class online September 8th for
mm,
a foundations class, and then an intermediate one September 22nd. Each of those is a 2 week, like a 10-hour interactive thing. And then
oh, okay.
the expert one in AI, really mostly AI focus, is
Oh,
October 20th to
nice.
29th.
A lot of interest in
Um,
that so far. I mean, I hope so. I really hope there's a lot
yeah,
of thirst out
I
there. Cool.
yeah. So these ones you just go to my website, Navarre Training, and or send me an email, Matt@Navarre.training, uh, to get information about pricing and whatnot. The foundations one's on sale.
Ooh.
Um, let's see. So those are big, and then there's two conferences coming up. Naples, FileMaker Week.
Oh,
That's just
Rome. Not used to be
FileMakerWeek.com.
Rome file. Now it's
Yeah, it used to be Rome. This
FileMaker
year,
Week.
there's like a huge Catholic Church centennial thing or something like that. So there's way more tourists than usual
Jeez.
this year, October in Rome. So they chose to do it in Naples instead. I'm doing a session there. Maybe I'd love to nerd out with you about it a little bit on basically on ways to use JSON to improve AI
Hmm.
results.
Well, in general, I don't. It has been my experience that AI loves JSON or
Yes,
language models love JSON. It
yeah.
just loves structure. Like as a matter of fact, even in prompt template design, using tag structures to delineate different parts of your prompt template make it easily
Mhm.
more consumable. And the same is true for data in JSON or JSON format, whichever whatever you fancy. So yeah, no, I think there's a lot of there. I think I know you've done some really good work with it too. I've been impressed with some of the videos I've seen that you've done, and I
Yeah,
think
I've
that's
been
an important
continuing to
topic.
work on it. I think it's been great. So there's going to be some cool free utilities for that one, and I'm excited. So the Naples conference, the Tours of Naples, they do an amazing job running a conference from tours, and they have a really good theme. I love Evelyn, um, who runs it. So the 6th and 7th in Naples are going to be like walking tours of the
Hmm.
city. Then the 8th is going to be an Italian language conference day uh, because so many people, there's a really big FileMaker community in Italy. And then the 9th and 10th are going to be, I guess, all English or English Italian. Um,
Hmm. I
and I'll
could wear
be,
my AI glasses there to
yeah, yeah,
understand
yeah.
what everybody's saying.
I'll be doing something like that too. And then the other conferences Engage You, and that's the largest European conference, maybe 300 people this year. That's in Antwerp,
Oh, yeah.
November 9th to 11th.
That's on the bucket list.
Yeah. And then I'm going to probably hang out in Amsterdam and go to some other places uh, in Europe, Northern Europe, for a week or so after. For that one, I'm doing a panel discussion, which is always awesome. Get a couple people from Claris and grill them.
I
And
love
I'm
panel
doing,
discussions.
yeah,
Zero prep.
my favorite. No, no, I actually do a lot of prep.
Oh,
They're
sorry.
much better if you can prep, but you can do them with zero prep. But if you do some pre-interviews and have some ideas and come up with and have people sort of agree on what you're going to talk about, but don't talk about it yet,
Hmm.
I think you get a really
Like we do
good.
with the podcast.
Yeah, kind of. But my
Yeah.
goal with panel discussions is to get some disagreement and
Uh-oh.
interest, right? So you kind of,
Like the podcast.
yeah, except one of these days, Chris, I'm going to be right about something.
You're always right about
Um,
stuff.
and I'm doing a 3 hour AI class there as well. So AI training, man, it's just, I'm
Yeah,
loving it.
I'm glad you're doing it. I hear from people at Claris that you're, leader in the clubhouse there. I'm sure with the latest 2025 release, there's a lot of additional thirst for some of the new things
Yeah.
that were released to kind of help people keep along on their journey.
I
You're
forgot to
doing good
mention
work out there.
I'm doing free classes for Claris too. You can find it on the community page. I'm
Oh,
teaching some AI intro classes, like 45-minute
that's
ones,
right. I remember we were
and
talking about that.
also like a fun one to do is the first time to FileMaker, like a class for people who haven't really seen FileMaker before, and you see how much you can do, and like build your first custom app in FileMaker, which is fun. And actually, as crazy as it sounds, I give people a little sample file. You can do some AI in that, right? Like
Hmm.
one of the new features that constructs a find request from a prompt,
Okay.
and you can say something like, "Find all the companies who have."
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the 2025 release. Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah, right.
2025
Yes.
release where you can.
Yep.
It's actually really kind of a brilliant feature, um, to be able to take a text prompt, look at the data on the current layout, and turn it into a regular old find request and run it.
Love it.
So it takes advantage of that, and it's just insanely uh, easy to use. And what's cool about it is you can take the script that does it, call it from another layout, and it will just work. Right? It's like it doesn't even care about context. You can put whatever fields on the layout, and so the new calculations come along to say, hey, what's on this layout, and how do I interpret it, and
Hmm.
then the the AI will figure out what the fields are. So if you say something like, company or contact date, if it will look at something and go, oh, this is actually,
Semantically,
yeah. But if you say something
yeah.
like find companies in California and it's actually CA in your database, it will fail. So there's, it's not magic, but it's pretty
Hmm.
good.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's fun. Love doing that.
I uh I don't have any plugs, dude. Like actually the only thing noteworthy is just yesterday I found out I got so OpenAI has these dev days that's just like a big announcement of new features and stuff that they do on every year. And kind of a big deal. It's a very newsworthy event. And I guess I had applied to attend in person
Hmm.
and as is always the case, they were like, yeah, you're a nobody. You can't come here, limited
Hmm.
space only. But yesterday I got granted. They accepted my deal, and so I'm
To
going
talk?
up to no,
Oh,
God, no. It's literally there. It's like just attend in person and see the new
uh,
stuff, in person. And to me, I think it's cool. I like to check out what's going on there at their facility, and
hmm.
just kind of being in the San Francisco AI vibe and at the epicenter of what hopefully is some pretty newsworthy stuff. So I'll be there reporting live
Hmm.
and gathering all sorts of info for the podcast. How's that? That's
Sounds.
on the
Oh
October
yeah.
6th. So while you're out at one of your
Oh yeah.
conferences, I'll be sitting in the
Yeah.
audience, soaking stuff up live and looking at Sam Altman tell us what is going to change the world next. So
Do
it should be
you
cool.
remember that movie L.A. Story, Steve Martin?
Love it.
There was a scene where he wanted to go to this fancy restaurant, and he had to, in order to get a reservation, he had to sit down with the chef or whatever, and who interviewed him, asked him what his salary was, and then based on his salary, told him which items from the menu he was allowed to order. It was great.
I do kind of feel that way with this
Yeah,
being
I have to
granted.
rewatch that movie. It's so good.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's a good. Well, I speaking of news, I
hmm.
wanted to share something with you. Let me show you
We
this.
haven't even had a podcast since GPT-5 came out.
Oh my God, you're
Or
right.
if you watch their videos, it's called GPT-5. GPT-5.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I
So
don't feel
fast.
as bad about. Yeah, so the dev day should be GPT-5 related stuff. It'll be new stuff. Who knows what they're going to do? But yeah, a little underwhelming of a GPT-5 launch. I
Really?
use the model.
Hmm.
I use it as sort of a model as a judge for other coding that, in different models. I know they were a little apologetic with the launch. It wasn't super
Hmm.
spectacular. The AI community has met it with sort of a meh. Um, even it didn't like grab all the top benchmarks or anything like that. So it was kind of interesting. And the combination of sort of the meh GPT-5 launch and then the release of this paper that I'm showing for those that are just listening, it was created by MIT Media Lab's NANDA initiative, which is got a big focus on AI. It's called the Gen AI Divide: State of AI in Business in 2025. I consume these things all the time. I want to see, I love the studies. I'd love to see where things are going. And this one grabbed all the headlines. And it grabbed all the headlines because, well, media loves doom when it comes to AI. So they found this
I
one,
know.
of the entire like 30-page report or whatever, they found like literally if you Google Gen AI divides state of AI in business in 2025, go ahead and do that, folks that are listening. 100% of the headlines that you're going to see under the Google News are going to say, MIT report says that 95% of AI pilots fail. And that is not actually what the actual premise is. It says that there's a certain type of AI pilot, meaning, a company has decided they want to explore AI and they put some
Yeah.
money behind it and they do some experiments and they do some stuff. Well, do some of them go
Well,
into production or not? And they said 95 of them that have a certain characteristic do not.
a
But when
pilot
that
is supposed to fail. It's not supposed to.
Well, I know that's a
I
little
mean, it's not.
convenient
It's
as well
yeah.
too.
Well, anyway, I mean, it's a pilot. It's like, hey, let's come up with,
It's
15 different
technically an experiment.
things.
Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we'll actually the first thing we do when we engage new AI customers, we say, what experiments can we do? Like AI is a bit of a black box. So what can we do with your data and your users and your workflow to show you that AI could be useful? Let's just like take a tiny little thing, a
Yeah.
couple of documents, a couple of pieces of data. Let's see if it works. I mean, there really isn't a fail there, right? It's just we're going to learn something, and we certainly we could learn that what we're trying to do is not even possible. But here's the really fascinating thing about what this study actually captured, even though no one read beyond 95% and then the word fail. The reality of it is it said that the pilots that fail are the ones where they're just connecting like directly to AI. Like
Hmm.
there's just like asking questions and expect, you and I have used this term, kind of tongue in cheek, zero shotting.
Yeah.
We've used it in sort of a pejorative sense. And people who in AI who are talking about who say zero shotting, they are speaking pejoratively about just expecting you give AI like one command and it just like does the perfect output for you and then you just ship it. That is no one should be under the perception that that's what AI is for.
Right.
AI really the what they really pointed to was there was actually an emergence of this concept that's called context engineering. You and I have talked about prompt engineering. Everybody's talked about prompt engineering. But earlier this year, this idea of context engineering. And when you look into context engineering, it's really about, doing techniques like RAG, where you're grabbing data, chunked up documents or data from a data source or something, and then you're sending that along with the user's questions, so to speak. There's also other things like introducing memory into these techniques. Context engineering is really just a sophisticated, like smart way to actually do AI programming, whether it's agentic or it's just LLM workflows, really focusing on the additional data and tools that you're making available to your integration are really what make them useful. This particular study points to those techniques as having a considerably higher success rate. Well, not just considerably higher than 5%, but like very successful rate. And I urge
Sure.
people to actually throw this paper into ChatGPT or something and talk to it or whatever. So one of the things that was also pointed to in there is personalization or AI applications that learn as they're being used. And so I thought that would be a really interesting topic for us to talk about here is personalization. I'm pretty obsessed with it I'm very obsessed with personalization in the context of AI. I'm happy to explain what that is and get your thoughts on it. And I really think it actually is really important within the FileMaker community because and I'll try to frame that up. So first off, we're all in the FileMaker community, not just because we like software or creating business software, but it's a very special reason why we're in the FileMaker community. Everybody that's listening is because we believe in custom. Like that's our religion, right? Now, save for a small handful of very successful verticals out there that don't do anything custom, they just do the one thing. Or one could argue that their first iteration was custom, and they found a product market fit there, and then
I mean,
decided to iterate on it.
from what I know about verticals, and I know a lot of those guys, there is a lot of custom with it, right? So they'll give you like the core, but
Oh,
then
yeah, there you go.
either
Yep.
unlock it. So some of them actually allow the whole thing to be customized, and so they can't really upgrade them because they like, here's the code that's the huge code base, and take this whatever direction you want. Or the way I did it back in the day with Pre-1 was, here's the core software, and there's like a customization module, and you could do whatever the hell
Yeah,
you want with that. And
that's popular.
there's hooks in and out of the main system to go to it. So if you want some other report, it'll hook out to the custom file where you can control your layouts. And then if you
So
click a
even
button to go
there,
to a detail, it hooks back into the, yeah, anyway. But yeah. So I
custom
agree with you.
custom religion is
Custom is the thing. Yeah.
yeah, and I think in the way I always like, well, and that's why I became a FileMaker guy. I was a user. I was using like the Act. Remember Act with the exclamation
Oh
point at
yeah.
the end there, and it didn't have any
Semantic.
customization. And so
Yeah.
I moved to Semantic, and so I moved to FileMaker, which was all customization. And so for me, I always felt like custom versus SaaS to me is just the lack of compromise. It just means like I actually want to get the thing that's purpose built for me and my organization and my individual users. But that's what's kind of fascinating is the tool set that we've had up until this AI moment has allowed us to build customized apps for companies or organizations, right? We couldn't really ever take it to the user. Now, granted, there are some techniques, like customized landing pages or something like that. But at the end of the day, FileMaker applications are purely deterministic. They are someone decided you go here, you do this, you do that, you do it. And there's some conditions and some branching going on, and maybe some level of personalization as far as that branching is concerned. But the reality of it is a deterministic application. And the most deterministic applications are like SaaS systems, like verticals that are built for one reason, and every user, every subscriber gets essentially the same experience. And I don't, and I, the thing that got me into this, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, is that I believe that every organization should have their own custom software. Like that is the optimal scenario, is that a purpose built just for that organization, for its users, I think is what the goal is. I mean, I would assume you agree because we're kind of in the same space.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it depends upon the kind of business that you're running. If you're running a Subway, then no, you shouldn't have that.
Sure.
But if you're running any kind of a chain business that sort of comes with a program, then no. But for like so many other businesses that are unique in whatever way, absolutely, the custom program is going to allow you to outcompete. There's a couple things first of all, lack of what was that phrase you used? It was so great. Lack of compromise. Lack of compromise.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
you
I
don't
mean, I
have to.
guess, yeah, off the shelf is a lot of compromise. And
Yeah, but I mean, lack of compromise is just such a great phrase. I
I
could
like
credit you
it.
with that
Yeah, I
one.
dig that. I mean,
Yeah,
just because I said it doesn't mean I dig it. But yeah, that's it. As a
yeah,
business owner as well too, and you can probably agree with this. I want something that's for me, right? And not just because I'm selfish or whatever, but because I feel like I do things uniquely. Like how many times have you heard your FileMaker customers say, "Well, we definitely do things different here at XYZ Corp," and you kind of think in the back of your mind like that's literally what every single customer says. So like, of course you do, right? And
yeah.
it's good that some organizations embrace that. And I've always thought that like that's why we're all in FileMaker, but there's one more level to it. I imagine that customization is where you build apps for companies, maybe workflows, but personalization, this concept that I'm pretty obsessed with these days, is where you're building individualized experiences for users, for each one of those users within the organization. So just like a user's
Yeah,
job
let's
role is different, that's really what I'm talking about here today is special customized for the user experiences.
let's take a step back and to try to put that into something that is maybe something that people can understand. It's just using the ChatGPT, right? So if you use ChatGPT and you're having a conversation and about something, you can tell it, remember this thing. And then
Yes, just
it's building personalization for you.
yes.
And it knows that when you ask for something, it knows that about you,
Yeah, and actually, so that exists in ChatGPT. Other IDEs are doing the same. Grok
Mhm,
does that.
mhm.
Claude now. Everybody
Sure.
has the personalization feature. It's
So
very
connect
high
that to
level.
FileMaker though. I mean, that's how different,
Okay,
what's your
so
vision?
well, first, if we look at so there's two things. There's the personalization, meaning identifying the user and bringing that into the context of their interactions with language models. And then there's personalized interfaces. So if we look at the example that you just gave with the ChatGPT, that's more of the, here's me, I'm Chris, and I want you to know as much about me as possible so that you can give me more relevant results. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, I like to think of, the other thing that everybody focuses on is hallucinations, right? And you've probably heard me talk about these in the past. And I say, like, if you're using AI systems as question answer machines for business, you're just doing it wrong. And what I'm really saying that there's some nuance there. So really what you should, I don't actually believe that language models are, if they give you the wrong answer or the answer that you weren't looking for, I'm not saying that they just made something up. I'm saying if you get the wrong answer, I actually think that's on the user. Like, that the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they're like, they find the all-knowing being and they go up to it and they go, okay, what's your question? And they go, oh, meaning of life. And
Life, the universe, and everything.
yeah, and the
42?
thing says
Yeah.
the answer is 42. And then they go, what? And then its response, that no one seems to parrot as much as the 42 answer, is it goes, well, you asked the wrong question, right? And I believe strongly that that's what experiences with language models are. It is the all-knowing being, and they get smarter and smarter and smarter, and they have tons of intelligence. So if you're not getting the answer that you want, I'm not saying hallucination, but you're just not getting a relevant answer, it's because you're not telling it enough about who you are, what your goals are. It doesn't know enough about your data. It really doesn't know all that. So what the answer that people think is the answer to that is to create like extremely like expansive like prompts. And I believe that if we're developing AI systems or LLM integrated systems, that we should not, our users should not have to be prompt engineers. It's like anything else. They should just have to ask a question or express themselves. So the way that we actually do that, the way we put our finger on the scale, and this has been my experience for years now, is that the more you know about the user, and you can build that in the background as like a user persona or like a statement about each individual user, and the more you know about the data that they're interacting with, you can describe that as schema or a system prompt or something like that for a data set. Like you can add system prompts to MCP servers, for example, and that is a great way for the language model to be educated on not just here's a bunch of data and a bunch of fields, figure it out on your own, but saying here's a bunch of data, focus on these, and if a user ever asks a question about this, they're probably they're going to find the answer over here, and so on and so on. Like that's actually development work that people like us can do, especially domain experts that are really close to the data and actually know the users and understand business rules within organizations. We can actually add a lot of value to this. So in the systems that we create, we define user personas. Here's everything you need to know about Matt. This is likely what he's going to be trying to do. It's your business persona, unlike ChatGPT, where it might know you and the name of your dog and the fact that you live in Greece and you like blue or whatever, or you're an ice plunge guy or not, or whatever. It's strictly your business role. Like this is me when I'm working. Now, the interesting thing about the example with ChatGPT is it's updating like a little text, like bullet point stuff that it's observed about you. And there are, and I believe the systems of the future, the systems that we're building now, and what I think everyone will eventually gravitate towards is having them listen to those exchanges that users are having in that hot path or in the conversation that they're having with the LLMs. And you might say something like, "Oh yeah, I in my role, I need to know this information because or whatever." So the idea is that the system would like identify that using language models and store it away in a hard storage memory architecture that it then can then go find that information semantically and bring it into future conversations. So sort of the dream is, imagine like you're working with an LLM integrated system and it says to you, well, I remember a conversation that we had where you told me about blah, blah, blah. So as a result of that, I can tell you that the answer to this question is such and such, right? Or maybe it just sort of assumes that and builds it into the answer. So
I mean, there's part of it that I can really see some utility, and there's part of it that I just don't get, right? It's like a data entry screen that everybody in the organization shares has to have certain information in certain order. It's deterministic and it has to be the same.
Data entry is 100% deterministic.
Right, but your dashboard example gets me excited thinking about your description.
Well, that's UI. So
follow me. So, I have a soapbox that I stand on. A dashboard has to be three things:
yes,
meaningful, visual, and actionable. And if it's not all three, it's not a dashboard, right? So
I would say the same thing for a layout.
Oh yeah, I give you that. Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
actually, let me wet your whistle now that you mentioned that. Let's listen to one quick thing here. I think you're gonna love this. This is perfectly topical. You're gonna love it. Ready for this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Here is AI luminary Eric Schmidt. If you there's a lot of guys out there that when they talk, you should listen. Eric Schmidt is one of those guys. You
Google.
can rabbit hole on him. He used to be Google, yeah, Google
Yeah.
AI, DeepMind. He's basically a luminary that all the VCs listen to. Let's listen to him on a podcast that's called Moonshots with one of the big AI investors. And this is something that really caught my attention because this is my position on this. So take a listen.
I think user interfaces are largely going to go away because if you think about it, the agents speak English typically or other languages. You can talk to them. You can say what you want. The UI can be generated. So I can say, generate me a set of buttons that allows me to solve this problem. And it's generated for you. Why do I have to be stuck in what is called the WIMP interface, Windows icons, menus, and pull down that was invented in Xerox PARC 50 years ago? Why am I still stuck in that paradigm? I just want it to work. I think user interfaces are largely.
So your thoughts. And by the way, we can dig into the WIMP interface too.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some truth to it, but then the find by example feature in FileMaker that's 50 years old, not quite, is awesome. The idea was great. It's still great. It's easy for users to understand and use. It gives them a lot of power, and I don't know that we're quite there yet. And I don't know that I think you'd actually get results that would be bad if you had different users being able to create their own user interface for data entry that doesn't conform to standards, which is kind of what he's sort of suggesting.
No,
data consumption.
Yeah, I mean, data entry is deterministic. There's certain data that needs to be collected.
That's the main job of almost every FileMaker system.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I mean, your dashboard is not data entry at all.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the main job of a FileMaker system is to structure data and allow entry of data in an organized way so that you can use it for whatever you want to do.
It's data in, data out. I would say that is a important part of its responsibility, but there are some users that don't enter data at all in our systems. And I don't think they're that small of a community.
I think that's the exception, though. I can't think of a customer like that offhand, but.
No, I'm not talking about organizations, dude. I'm talking about individual users. So get out of the whole idea of like organizations. I'm talking about.
I'm just talking about why an organization would use FileMaker. It's custom so that they can track what they need and they don't have to compromise. They can track what they need and not track what they don't. That's a key point of, I don't know, virtually every FileMaker.
You're talking about the value of custom. So
so now when you get to the point of individual users, and this is really where the personalization thing comes in.
This is literally.
So here's my vision. Here's my dream that came up when you were describing it. And you can tell me if this is kind of what you're thinking or not. Okay, so different users, when they log on, if the system is personalized, then on their dashboard, I hate the phrase KPI, but it would basically, when they log on, do an AI, a smart query to say, because your job is this, and because you've used these things in the past, we're going to go look at this particular data, and these are the things you should know about because you might want to take action on them today.
Yeah. And it knows that about you because, well, you probably gave it some seed at some point, said, I'm Matt, and this is what my KPIs are. These are my job goals or whatever. But also it's through all the interactions that you've had, it's tracked these, it's logged these things, and it's learned about you in the same manner that ChatGPT has done. Language models are excellent at that. They're excellent at that nuance. So really, there's probably like 20 things or whatever that you really do when you're interacting with your data, and you kind of rinse and repeat them at different intervals. And if a system can get to know that, then it just needs to know, where are you at right now, not physically or geographically, but like in your work process, where are you at? What information do you need to know, and what action would you need to take on that? So what Eric Schmidt is just saying there is, why are we still using? So the WIMP paradigm, by the way, is Windows, icons, menus, and pull downs. He's talking about just like hard code building the user interfaces. And I get that this is radical because like people like everyone interacts with the WIMP interface. And we've been doing that since the 70s. Like he said, 50 years ago, this is what the paradigm was. Well, we have technology now to present the user interface to the user on demand based on what it knows about the user and what moment that user is in right now.
Isn't it still going to use those things, though? I mean, what widgets is it going to use if it's not a window and a pull down and a field and whatever,
Sure, but does
Yeah.
some human actually have to go ahead and create it ahead of time?
Yeah. That's the thing.
That is the thing.
That's the thing. Right.
Exactly.
So
And I
that
think
you
that's
can,
a really important thing for us because we're a bunch of humans that build these things ahead of time. Now, what I would say is, from my own personal perspective, I stumbled into this because you've heard me say this term before, maybe. Like, once I realized that like AI can do this, and once I realized that not only AI can create UI, I mean, it can do it in a second, and it knows how to create AI UI better than, frankly, me and anyone I know. No offense. And so if it can do that and it can create literally anything, how about if it knows as much about me as possible, which can also do, and it
mhm,
knows about what moment in time I'm in right now and what my work goals are and where I'm at on this and
mhm.
what I need, what I still need. Why can't it just generate those things for me on demand and give me the perfect interface for that moment, whether it's a dashboard or a data entry screen, or frankly, if it's just like a response to a question that I'm asking in a report format, or gives me some visualization that I can interact with. And then, like you said, there are KPIs, or there's actions, or
Mhm.
it's supposed to be actionable information. It also then expose tools to me so it dynamically so that I can actually take action on them. The question is, why would somebody have to build that ahead of time? And so to me, I started thinking about that and I said, God, what hubris that I've had all these years building an application for somebody and then thinking for some reason that workflow, those screens that I created were going to still be relevant to them like years later,
You and
or
I
in
have had
some
this
like,
conversation before. Yeah, it's a
mhm.
really it's a pretty deeply philosophical point, honestly.
I think it is
Um,
philosophical. It's a good point. And you are the
yeah.
philosopher. And
Um,
I've maybe described this as ephemeral UI before. That's
mhm.
kind of what he was just describing. It's a little confusing because if you Google ephemeral UI, it actually talks about like just modal dialogues that
We're in
appear
a
for a moment,
post-Google
disappear.
world. Come on, we don't Google things. We
Yeah,
ChatGPT web search them.
exactly. If you definitely ChatGPT it, you'll be able to dig down. Like the ephemeral UI, in the way I'm talking about it, is like adaptive, disposable if necessary, and actionable interfaces that live really just long enough to serve you. They let you act and not just observe. Like the
Mhm.
dashboard conversation that you and I have been having for years are that, dashboards are static. Most importantly, they're pre-built. And ephemeral UIs are like living adaptive interfaces that also integrate tools for taking action and approving and editing and launching or analyzing or whatever. So that to me is the difference, and that's what Eric Schmidt was just describing here. So I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. I don't disagree that the future of interfaces will be adaptive to users, and if what they need in that time is a data entry layout with some WIMP elements to it, so be it. But the point is like us creating something and then just deploying it and assuming that it's meeting the user's needs in perpetuity, it just doesn't seem realistic anymore. And it was the only choice we had all this time, but now we don't. Now we have the ability that obviously we all know that AI can create code and create interfaces, and it can do it in seconds. And if it knows everything about us, knows everything about the data, and it knows everything about that moment in time that we're in, and then we trigger it with some sort of question or query, it could create all that for us on demand.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's actually a ton of work that what's going to have to go in from us as developers to get to that.
I
Um,
agree. I actually think if
but
apps
there's
are,
a shift that's happening, right?
well, and that's what I'm excited about. So I don't want to sound like doom and gloom. And and for the two or three people that are listening, I don't want the one of them to freak out that's actually like a designer, because even though I'm describing apps being ephemeral, what also happens, domain knowledge is enduring. So, like, in the personalization era, which I'm saying we might be at the cusp of right now, developers don't, but they won't build apps, let's say, but let's not freak out. They're going to actually build the conditions in which these experiences emerge. So the conditions of the moment. And so building out what, capturing and feeding to the system what we know about users, or building a complicated system that's constantly monitoring and learning on its own, and building in feedback loops. That's something
Mhm.
that we're perfectly poised to be able to do. Knowing, the business rules of an organization and being very close to their data. These are all things that are going to be absolutely required for these to build the conditions for experiences to emerge. And I think that we're perfectly suited for that. I mean, I don't know if like people have never gathered requirements or interfaced with the user and they're just sitting at a desk and building layouts all the time. Maybe not so much, but I think, the type of folks that are interested in AI and the people who have been around in this business for a long time, I think are really perfectly suited for that type of thing. So I think hopeful.
Yeah, I think so too. And always when we have conversations, my brain starts kind of going like, what would the steps be to get there? Like, how's the rubber going to hit the road? And
Hmm.
for example, I've been thinking a lot about one aspect of that, which is just reports.
Yeah.
And historically, for the whole of our careers, we've been building reports using list layouts with sub-summaries uh, and find commands, and then kind of going steps beyond that to build it with like a virtual list or uh, something that does multiple of those, and then build a PDF from data from different contexts. But it's all basically kind of the same.
Reports are probably the most deterministic thing we build. Like,
Yes,
because
yes. I mean, yes, deterministic in terms of what it is, but of course the data changes all the time. So,
correct.
by the way, I always think of deterministic versus probabilistic, but I'm not sure if that's really the other end of the particular spectrum
It
that you're
is.
talking about.
Yeah, it is. I think, yes. It definitely fits here. I think when we're talking about UI, it would be deterministic versus adaptive, I guess,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's the
fine, makes
same
sense.
principle, you know?
Yeah. So what I've been,
Well, how many times has a customer said to you, and they're, FileMaker's not the most flexible reporting tool, right? Like you have to pick your columns, and sure, I get it. There's some
Mhm,
tricks, and there's certainly virtual lists and ways that you can mess around with sub-summary reports and sorting to reveal and hide certain layout
mhm.
objects. Great. But I know everybody listening, and even yourself, has had the experience where you build a report for a user and they go, yeah, I get that the rows can change and the data can change based on font set, but can my columns change too? Like, can I just like have this thing not be there if I want to do this or that and the other thing? And we reluctantly say, well, not really. Like, I can build you a different report that has that and maybe take it to you conditionally. So I feel like it solves for that problem. What we're talking about here is it just presents the data in the format that makes the most sense for what the user is trying to do at that moment. Is kind of where my head's at there. I think reporting might be the first, if anything goes away, it's probably reporting when users have the ability to just query data and have conversations with it instead. Same data, same
Yeah.
user, same goals, but why not just ask?
Well, and I think that most of the time the report exists because they want to get the same or similar data on a recurring basis.
Sure, but
So
I'm saying you can still achieve that knowledge by asking and getting a
yes,
response back.
yeah. So actually, the kind of the things that I've been building is rather than doing all of my work as a FileMaker developer, building list layouts and doing all that, instead I create prompts, system prompts and user prompts, store the prompt in a table, in a record, and then when the user wants to run a particular report, they call up that record, which
Perfect.
already has the known working thing, and so the report says, you are a report that looks up invoice data and summarizes it by this. When you format it, you always use US dollars and you use two decimal places.
And that's the
And you get
programming
all
you're
that
doing.
information, right? So all the programming I'm doing is that rather than
That's where I'm going to.
right. And
Yeah,
then
we're
once
on
I
the
have
same
it like
page.
working and I know it's right and I know it doesn't hallucinate, it gets the right data, um, then I can say, okay, well, I'm going to give that as a system prompt. Then the user can say, oh, well, how do you want to tweak that? What are the
Yep.
parameters you want? And the user can say, compare Q1, for the last 4 years on the top whatever products. Or that's kind of a weird sales example. Anyway, that's where we can go. And as long as the reports are reliable and you can give it enough data, and there's definitely issues around that right now, even with all the new features.
I mean, FileMaker you're talking about?
Yeah. Like having FileMaker analyze a gigantic amount of data with AI is a problem. It is
Yeah,
a challenge. Anyway.
I know no one from Claris is listening, but yeah, I don't think FileMaker's quite there yet for just like whatever data sets. Like
Mhm.
it's got some limitations, and within those limitations, it's useful. But you're right, it's not greenfield opportunity stuff
I
quite yet.
mean, so like the ones that I talked about earlier, where you can do a type of prompt and it will do a regular FileMaker search. That can work on millions of records. It can also create a SQL query that can also work on millions of records. But if you want AI to use its AI engine and have it intelligently connect the information and understand the meaning of it and really get to the nuance of it, like for example, which of the 10 products that have come out in the last 6 months are most likely to have the highest sales in customers in this base or something like that. It has to have really deep understanding of the data, which means you need to give it, you need to give the AI engine 10,000 invoices, and you can't do that in an API call. Not the execute or the insert from your, and also not in the new ones. It has a limit of tokens. And I've done some play with it, and you can send. I did a huge one where I sent 500 customers with a huge amount of data underneath it, and it took 5 minutes to come back with the response.
Yeah, not optimal.
Not optimal. And it also was a limit. I couldn't do everything right. So you could do things like RAG. You can do, other types of, and those are the things that I'm trying to resolve now, to try to make as easy as I can for customers to use. And I'm still working on it. Look at this nice chart you've got here.
So this chart, that for those that are just listening, what I just pulled up was, there was a lot of chatter not too long ago about a concept called context engineering. I think I mentioned it earlier, and it followed prompt engineering. And I thought, oh wow, there's a new technique. Let me go look it up. And I, click on all the different links, and I see, oh, what they mean by context engineering is just the right way to integrate with language models, and you just define this. So context engineering is actually sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of different techniques where appropriate. Like you said, RAG, right? That's one of them. Prompt engineering, which you also said in here, that's one of them. Structured outputs, you literally defined a use case with structured outputs in your report example. And then the only thing that maybe wasn't so obvious that we weren't talking about is you want to introduce statefulness, right? So having history that's available, that is the thing that can help you learn about users, and analyzing these logs to be able to understand the users and their goals better, and then just simply memory to actually facilitate that, right? So this big movement of context engineering, to me, I was delighted to learn about it and just go, oh, that's just how I've been doing it this whole time. And if anyone's just getting started and you want to kind of accelerate your journey, dive right into context. Just search on ChatGPT, use study mode, by the way, which is that cool new stochastic learning thing, and have it guide you through context engineering, and let that be the basis for how you learn AI, because it's really what we're talking about here. And that will then facilitate a more you to be able to create more personalized, and if I replace the word personalized with relevant experiences, that's really what the goal is. It's not just personalization for the sake of personalization. It's I want this experience to be as relevant for me as possible. And we have the tools now to actually make that happen. So it's a bit of a future leaning thing, certainly, but that is where I expect us to be sooner than later. And so how do we prepare for that as folks in the FileMaker industry? Lean in on your domain knowledge, lean in on what you know about data, lean in on being able to express how one user is different from another, or how this data source should be relevant to those users or relevant to the language model. Make those your skills, because arguably your customers probably can't do that as well as definitely can't do it as well as you can. And be great at that, master that part of it. And then that way, when we move into even if we move into a completely personalized or ephemeral UI era, someone has to drive the coding, or the programming is that this contextual, knowledge that you're actually building in. And I think we're all in a great spot for that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought, and not only in this domain, but in a lot of other places, that when we get better tools, it allows us to focus on the higher value parts of our expertise. Right. So as FileMaker developers, we've worked so hard to get this domain knowledge. We have all these skills that are now not as useful, because we can call them up, right? So if we want to write a JSON function, I did one really recently, to calculate the distance from 2 points from latitude and longitude, to calculate the distance in kilometers. Because I've got one of the databases I'm working on is really cool. It has a bunch of different points, and it wants to get relevant data from another table that's the closest to this particular point to see what else is going on around the area. Well, I didn't want to write that calculation. I certainly could have done it, but because it involves, sine, cosine, curvature of the Earth, blah blah blah. It's not.
Sure.
It's basically it's giving you the information as the crow flies. It's not a super simple function. It involves you're throwing 4 pieces of data at it, right? Latin long source, Latin long destination, whatever. Where was I going with all that? So basically,
Well, that's a great coding example.
It's a coding example, but basically it allows me to kind of know what I want and then not have to do parts of it, right? I have a calculator, so I don't have to multiply 375 by 1931 in my head or on paper like that used to have to do a long time ago. Now I have that
Sure.
part is now automated and I don't have to do it anymore. I still could, but I'd use a better tool, which allows me to spend my time on higher level pursuits.
Yes.
And so our job as developers for what we do is that, plus our job as developers is to create systems so that our clients can be using more of their high level pursuits. And because they also have this domain knowledge and expertise and
no, you're nailing it. I think, to kind of the perspective I can lend there is that I've got 2 separate businesses. One, iSolutions, which is a FileMaker development consulting company.
I've heard of you.
We're a FBA, and we just build FileMaker applications. 100% of the people that contact us are already using FileMaker. They already know what they need, and so we really have to have 2 skills. A lot of people just jump to the second skill, which is develop the thing and deploy it for them. But really the first skill is to be able to capture really what it is that they need and be able to translate that into what needs to be built. That's a special talent.
Totally.
And so that doesn't go away. So if you look at what happens in the programming world, where it's already happening, let's face it, is where you just say, this is what I need. The Claude code experience as opposed to the cursor experience is like, here's what I'm trying to achieve. Here's the requirement specification, build the application based on this. You have to be good at that. You have to be really good at that part of it. And that a lot of people call orchestration. I like that terminology. So when you're not doing the actual coding, you're orchestrating the creation of code. And that's where domain knowledge and that context becomes so critically important. So for those that have refined that skill over the decades, then frankly, you're really good at that first thing and arguably maybe just as good, if not better at that than you are at the second thing, which is the programming stuff. So if programming goes away, it seems like the floor falls out and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? But then what I'm saying is that the first thing becomes even more important. And that's something that we're all good at.
That's that higher pursuit
that's my hopeful
talking about.
Exactly.
And I don't know when AI is going to take that over. I think that's, I think that's, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, right? Because the customer, if a customer asks for something, how are they going to know what what the best way is to do it? I don't know. I'm still really having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
The gap is actually in that. The gap is not the tech. The tech is 100% there today. These models are absolutely capable of taking direction and creating a production-worthy, deployment-worthy, bug-free version of that experience. That's part one. So then the real question is, how do the customers even know that there's AI that can do that? How do they go find these tools? So the tools exist. Are they prevalent within the marketplace? Do people know to go interact with those? Probably not. We're probably at least a couple of years away from that. So I think there's really 2 things to be checking, the heartbeat of. And one of them is, are AI models capable? 100% yes, we're there already. There's literally nothing to wait for. If you've got your head in the sand on this stuff, I'm just here to report it's there already. And then some. Even my best developers, like the guys who are just like total, or gals who are just rock star coders, they don't even write their own code anymore. The smartest ones don't even write their own code. And just recently, like GPT, which ultimately ended up being GPT-5, won a international coding competition. It beat the best humans. It's sort of like the big blue moment. So it's there. But the question is, do all our customers know it's there? Do all our customers believe it? Do all our customers who read the headlines about a very promising, document that talks about capabilities of AI, are they just seeing the headline that says 95% of AI projects fail and go, all right, well, AI is not there yet. No, it's there. Just like, how do we connect those dots? And so therein lies an opportunity, Matt, for us to be the Sherpa, to actually, be the stewards of this experience and actually say, yes, it's capable. Let me take you there. It's just the same thing as any other consulting.
Awesome visual.
Is that like any other kind of consulting? Like my wife, well, before my most recent endeavors, like people would be like, well, what do your husband do? And she's like, I don't know, something with computers, but he just can't fix my iPhone or my printer. But otherwise, I don't know what he does. And then I started just saying consulting. And then she's got this like rap, like, well, what is consulting? And I defined it as, well, I know 10% more about something than the people who hire me. Like basically that's, or more, right? But that's the idea. So now the 10% more could be where those tools are, what the capabilities are, what we know is possible. And then what we learn is their domain knowledge. And then now we're of value to the tools as well. So I don't know, this is a hopeful message. I believe this is a hopeful message for the folks that listen to us talk about this stuff.
I'm there with you too. I'm definitely like, having a positive view of it, mainly because I'm choosing to use it for positive things in my life.
You're a great example of it.
I'm choosing to use it to, to help me from things like ice cream. I've been making ice cream. I got a really sweet ice cream maker.
Nice.
And coming, it feels sort of weird to, have a long conversation with ChatGPT and end up with a really good saffron honey ice cream, but damn,
ooh,
it's good.
Yum. Well, the tools are there.
The tools are there. And then of course, learning coding, doing API integration, whatever new thing is coming at me, figuring out better ways to teach stuff, organizing, help with marketing, blah, blah, blah.
Well, here's a great example. I'll reveal, I talked about this on the last podcast that I did this presentation on AI in education. It was the first time I've ever done this talk. I talk about AI in education a lot. So I had a bunch of like sort of disparate thoughts and references. So for the first time ever, I used AI to create this presentation. What I did is I went into Gemini 2.5 because I had a 1 million token window because I talk a lot about, you remember the Brave New Words book, that Salcon thing? I literally uploaded the entire book to this conversation. And then I talk a lot about guide on the side versus sage on the stage. And there's these 2 papers that talk about that. I uploaded the entire papers, not just snippets. And then I talk about this Benjamin Bloom study from 1984, where it says that, children with tutors can learn at a 2 sigma increase than those that are just in a conventional classroom. I uploaded that entire paper. Then what I did is I did like, I don't know, it was like 20 or something, like different presentations that I'd done either at user groups or I talked to executive groups or whatever it is, or DevCon presentations. And I always have a script. So I uploaded all my scripts to this as well too and said, this is how I talk. These are the words I say. I want you to be able to match my style and my word choices and whatever. And then I said, okay, this is my audience. This is the organization. This is who's going to be there. And then I worked, but I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours in this. I didn't zero shot this and just say, spit out a session. I just said, okay, now give me an outline. Oh, let me tweak the outline a little bit. So now I had like a writing partner. And so to me, like I wouldn't have been able to do that without AI. And frankly, some really kind of amazing things popped up. Like, well, you mentioned this once in one of your presentations, that might fit really well here. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot all about that. And so like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back. Like, why would I ever do it the old way? It would just seem so ridiculous to me. And was I asking any questions of this model's latent intelligence? No. In 0% of the cases, I literally provided all the context and I was just having it shape it with me. And it did so efficiently in an incredible fashion. And I got to 0 to actually standing on stage with brand new information. By the way, with my teleprompter AI glasses, like doing the teleprompter of this in like, a handful, like 4 or 5 weeks with rehearsals and everything built into it. Whereas, I mean, it would take me months to do that in the old conventional way and to get to the same outcome. So
higher level, aspirations, higher level use of your time, by having the explanation, that's not the right word. The way that I help ask people to visualize AI is like 1,000 interns.
Yeah, I like that.
But now It's 1,000 interns with PhDs who speak every language.
Exactly.
And if you give them
Exactly.
really bad instructions, then they're going to give you bad results. You have to
It's
be,
perfect. By the way, one of the metaphors that came out of that session that I did is the metaphor that it came up with for me was a director. It's like an actor who's very skilled and can do whatever. If you just tell them to wing it, well, they might come up with something magical, but they also might just completely go off script on something
yeah.
that like isn't meaningful to what you're trying to produce. But a good director can actually say, look, this is your motivation. This is you. Here's here's the beats. This is what the outcome of the scene is. Now go, and then you're going to get the outcome that you want when you actually give it some level of influence or context, right? So it's the same kind of thing you're talking about there, just a different metaphor, really. So, I mean, I guess
AI is a fad still. I mean, whatever. It's going to be totally
it's like
over within a couple of weeks.
You know what? There was somebody who worked at Claris who, back in the old days, who famously said about web, because, they were in sales and they were, I mean, this is a really long time ago.
Yeah.
Like all the kids don't even know who this person is. So I'm not going to say their name, but they said, web is like designer jeans. Everybody thinks they need a pair, but it looks good on almost nobody. And by the way, ridiculous statement, but I think that's exactly how people feel about AI right now. Like everybody thinks they need AI. Just look at this report. 95% of certain types of deployments fail. Well, those usually started with some board of executives going,
pilots, 95%
we need
pilots.
AI. Yeah, and then it's a pilot or an experiment, and I don't even know what pass fail even means. So I guess the point is, like, go into it as an exploration, embrace the possibilities of it. And by the way, the other
use
thing
it to learn.
The other thing this report conveniently said was that the most successful deployments are with organizations that didn't try to build it internally by themselves, that they actually reached out to AI experts and created long-lasting partnerships with it, which obviously is my favorite part of the whole paper.
Well,
like,
it's also, it's obvious in hindsight. I mean,
of course,
I sometimes don't think about how much effort I've put in to learn the AI tools. And then until I explain it to someone who does what it's like a FileMaker person who's a really, really good developer who hasn't really invested the time. When I explain all the things that I know about AI and can condense it, they're like, I
totally. Yeah. You did the brain explode thing.
Yeah. And then there's still so much more, but it's going to be always expanding. And then also the things that are, what to avoid. Like in my classes, I'll just leave a couple things and I get going. Like a huge amount of the stuff that I do in teaching is to talk about the stuff in FileMaker to not use.
Yeah, that's good.
And to limit your tool set to just these things and get expertise in just these things. If you just watch videos from amazing companies, yours and other ones, you need to cover the whole platform, right? You're going to talk about field validation, and I'm going to tell you, don't use it. Do it in a script. You get way more control than you can really. And there's very few cases. Well,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're doing the same thing with AI. Like, hey, don't zero shot AI, right?
Yeah, not only that, but like RAG. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's really going to be that useful. Like, with the feature that FileMaker server now has is to be able to run local models.
Okay.
So if you have a FileMaker server, you can actually run RAG, and you can install the tools and you can do all that stuff.
But does that model have all that data in it?
Well, you could put it in. That's the point, right? You can and have RAG running and then give it a bunch of data source. So on the server you have it.
Yeah, that's still RAG though.
But what it needs to run is 128 gigs of RAM and a really fast GPU. Do you know how much that would cost on Amazon?
Well, I know that's what, don't get me started on first of all, and we can talk about this in a future podcast, but it is absolutely categorically false that the only way that you can protect your data from being, first of all, your data cannot be consumed by a language model. Language models are not, you cannot write to a language model. It is currently not even possible if they wanted it. They don't have self-learning models. It doesn't exist. These models are actually published. When a version of a model comes out, that means it's done learning.
Right.
And it's literally just something you bounce off of. It doesn't consume anything. The fallacy and concern that all the doomers are talking about is don't use ChatGPT, because your interactions with that model, but that sometimes contain your data, if you're using ChatGPT, can be used in training exercises. Training exercises don't mean it's consuming your data. It doesn't say, here's Matt's, password for his ATM or whatever.
Right.
It literally is like, here's a person asking a question and look at the pragmatics of this conversation. What can we learn from that and so on? There's no way to go then have another user come in and go like, hey, what's Matt's credit card number? Like, it's silly. So then the fallacy is that the only way to prevent that is to use an open source model, because then that's the thing that's consuming all your data and other people can't.
Or run it locally. I think, it's not.
That's the local. I'm sorry. That's the local. Run it locally. Completely categorically false. We can go into it in the future. Anyone wants to reach out to me, I can explain the nuances to it. But there are systems out there like Azure, Bedrock with AWS and then even using APIs from OpenAI that literally say, they've testified in front of Congress, they do not use your data for training. So
right.
And then the problem is, the trade-off is everybody thinks that to be safe, you have to run it locally. Well, the amount of compute necessary and the cost that you're going to incur by doing that, as opposed to just sending it out to Azure or Bedrock or something like that for pennies, is insane. So Matt, let's do this. This paper I was talking about, let's wrap up our discussion today. I'm going to just throw a couple of bullet points out for those that don't want to consume it. I actually wrapped up and figured out, why do the ones that the AI deployments fail? Why do they fail? I'll give you a few bullet points there. And then simply the characteristic of high adoption ones. And we'll let people think about that until our next podcast. So real quickly, the ones that fail is because most AI tools deployed are stateless. They don't retain context or learn over time. This is referred to as a learning gap, and that can be solved by introducing state or memory, or, like these personas that we talked about before. Brittle workflows, poor integrations. Many AI implementations are bolted onto existing processes rather than woven in. So like the use of AI should be subtle, like shouldn't know that AI is working. Like it doesn't have to be profound and take over the whole user experience. A lack of context and adaptability. We pretty much just talked about that for a whole hour. And then misalignment with business needs. That's, fail because they're serving the wrong problem or solving
exactly. Yeah, because it's difficult to figure out what you actually really need to solve. Like, it's really easy to say, hey, there's a cool thing that it does. Can we use that cool thing to solve this problem? And no, because it's not the problem that you have.
And that's where looking at this as a tool rather than a replacement for what you're doing is where the subtlety comes into play. And so the flip side of it is, to leave everybody with this, the characteristics of high adoption, like you said, successful deployments are learning capable and stateful systems. So every successful deployment that was discussed in this report prioritized AI solutions that can learn from feedback, retain context from session to session, and improve over time. Also, they were successful
when they... easy in FileMaker, but doable.
Well, I mean, doable, right?
Yeah.
Deep workflow integration. High adoption AI isn't a shiny add-on. It's embedded within core processes. You might not even know it's actually running there. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It can be profound. And then finally, process-specific customization. No two companies have the exact same workflows or terminology. The most successful AI deployments recognize this and have demand-specific customization from their vendors. And so finally, and this is my favorite one, finally, successful deployments often leveraged external expertise, either purchasing from specialized AI vendors or partnering with consultants like Matt, rather than going completely solo. Data shows that AI tools co-developed or implemented by external partners reach production 67% of the time versus 33% of the time for internal-only builds. Thank you very much. Call Matt if you need any AI services. So,
yes, please do. But you can also probably call Cris, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
one of your two companies.
Certainly look forward to hearing how everything goes on this crazy upcoming schedule of all these conferences and training sessions you've got. But let's definitely do another discussion. We'll come up with another fun topic and chat with people, maybe even have a guest or something like that. But I expect that we'll have some interviews when you're out at these sessions, or these conferences, like you've done before. People really like those. Yeah,
I have several people that I've been talking to about interviews. One that's really, I think, interesting. We know Data. There's several different people there. They're based in the UK, and their approach is very interesting from design. And one of the things that I think is that really captured my attention is they're talking about just just dealing with the pace of change. It's like having some a change in the way that you approach your work, to understand that the tools that you're using today are not going to be the ones you're using 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever.
Oh, I like that.
And to basically just adapt so that you know that these other things are going to be changing, right? And to be able to deal with that, because that's not the way, like in a FileMaker database, it's kind of the same thing for all these years, and you always use SendGrid, and you always use, QuickBooks, and you always blah, blah, blah. But now if like other little parts of it can be changed out, you have to really be able to understand that, we used to use this model, but now this other one does so much more. It's going to do something differently, but it's also going to do something more, to be able to adapt and not freak out.
I have an interesting way to bring that into our topic today as sort of a nice bow on this. A phrase that I use in a lot of presentations when I talk to people about personalization with AI. So you said the name of the company is We Know Data, right? Which is a great statement. There's a lot of value there. But literally this soundbite that I use in a lot of presentations is I say, you know your data, but does your data know you? And that's literally what we've talked about this whole time, is letting the data know who the users are, how the data is relevant to them, what the business rules are. So I guess that's probably the best way to wrap this up, is we've had these careers of knowing our customers' data, but now we can actually help the data know the user as well too, by bringing our domain knowledge and that higher level expertise that we have to these language.
So when you log on your database, it'll say like, "Oh, hi, Chris. I'm the set of invoices for the last 6 months, and I just wanted to say hi."
Yeah, I mean that's how ChatGPT does it. It's like, "Hi, Matt." It's like, "Okay, cute. You know my name now." But
I know, it's like, "Can I do
deeper
something blah 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 to help you?" It's like, "No, just don't ask me. Just like, let me ask you when I want something."
just do it. So, but anyhow, always great, Matt. Thanks for hanging in there, Alexi. We appreciate it. And the other couple of people, look forward to hearing your interviews and discussions at these conferences, and can't wait to record another podcast with you when you get back.
And we can do it all throughout between now and then. People go to the conferences in Europe. They're just so good. They're so good.
I got to do that myself. It's on my bucket list for sure.
Yep. Well,
FOMO in the meantime. Excellent, brother. This is a good one. Enjoy the conversation as always. We'll look forward to our next pod.